deep in the big muddy, the big fool said to push on.
Can a song really shake up a whole nation? Can a few lyrics make powerful people panic? In the 60s and 70s, the answer was a loud, uncomfortable yes. You might remember grooving to some of these songs, or maybe hearing about them in hushed tones. They weren't just catchy tunes, they were ticking time bombs. Some tracks sparked moral outrage. Others were blacklisted for being political, too sexual, or just too blunt for their time. What exactly made these songs so dangerous? And why did so many stations, countries, and censors try to silence them? Today, we're digging into the banned and controversial songs of the 60s and 70s that got people fired up, thrown off the air, and sometimes arrested. Let's jump into the top 10, and trust me, you'll never hear these songs the same way again. Number 10, Let's Spend the Night Together, The Rolling Stones, 1967.
Let's spend the night together. Now I need you more than...
Let's kick things off with a track that practically had censors clutching their pearls. When the Rolling Stones released Let's Spend the Night Together, they weren't being subtle. The song was direct, suggestive, and absolutely scandalous by 1967 standards. The line wasn't even metaphorical.
I'm feeling strong, but I can't disguise alright. Let's spend the night.
Mick Jagger's sultry vocals made it clear. This wasn't about holding hands or whispering sweet nothings. This was about, well, spending the night together in the very literal sense. Ed Sullivan famously told the band they had to change the lyrics to "Let's spend some time together" for their live performance.
Let's spend the night together. Now I need you more than...
Jagger complied, sort of. He rolled his eyes dramatically every time he sang the censored line, making it very clear he wasn't thrilled. Some radio stations flat out refused to play it. In the American South, it was deemed too obscene for public broadcast. Ironically, all the fuss just made the song more popular. It wasn't just the music, it was the attitude. The Stones weren't just breaking rules, they were mocking the people who made them. Number 9, Je t'aime, Moi non plus, Serge Gainsbourg and Jane Birkin, 1969. This one wasn't just banned, it was internationally banned. Je t'aime, Moi non plus, a steamy French duet between Serge Gainsbourg and Jane Birkin, didn't just flirt with sensuality, it dove headfirst into it. The lyrics were laced with erotic metaphors, but what really sent people into a frenzy was the delivery. Birkin's breathy moans and gasps throughout the track mimicked. Let's just say private moments. The Vatican condemned it. Radio stations across Europe banned it. In the UK, it was banned on BBC Radio. Even some record stores refused to stock it. In the US, it barely got airplay, but it still managed to stir up controversy for being too sexually explicit. Yet, it climbed the charts, proving once again that banning a song is often the best advertisement. The controversy made it a cultural moment. It wasn't just about sex, it was about challenging taboos and owning desire, something rarely expressed that openly in pop music. Number 8, Witchita Lineman, Glenn Campbell, 1968.
And the Witchita Lineman.
Now this might surprise you. Glenn Campbell, the clean-cut country crooner, banned? Well, not exactly, but Witchita Lineman stirred a very different kind of controversy. It wasn't banned outright in most places, but it faced pushback from some stations for being too poetic. The line that got people talking was, "I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time."
And I need you more than want you.
For some listeners, especially conservative radio managers, the lyric implied emotional obsession, and that didn't sit well in the era of tight-laced expectations. Some thought it suggested a kind of possessiveness that wasn't appropriate. A few religious broadcasters even labeled it inappropriate for young women.
I know I need a small vacation.
It's mild by today's standards, but back then, anything suggesting passionate longing could spark backlash. It goes to show, even subtle emotion could be too much if delivered the wrong way or the right way. Number 7, The Pill, Loretta Lynn, 1975.
Turn down your brooder house, 'cause now I've got the pill.
Now here's one that got a ton of flack, especially from conservative America. Loretta Lynn's The Pill was one of the first mainstream country songs to talk openly about birth control. This was a country song. Let that sink in.
They say to have more hair than Liz Glass, all the way to Prince.
Lynn sang about a woman finally taking control of her reproductive rights and, by extension, her life. That didn't go over well in the Bible Belt. Over 60 radio stations in the US banned it instantly. Some called it immoral. Others said it was encouraging promiscuity. But to millions of women, it was a revelation. A song that finally said what they were thinking.
Won't take up so much yardage.
Loretta didn't back down. She said, if they can play a song about a man drinking and cheating, they can play one about a woman saying no more babies. It was feminist, it was bold, and it was banned for being all of the above. Number 6, Cop Killer, Body Count, Ice-T, 1992. Wait, this is from the 90s, right? Yes, but we're including it here for a good reason. Cop Killer by Body Count. Ice-T's metal band reignited debates about band music, and it made older generations reflect on how things had changed since the 60s and 70s. In fact, many people compared it to songs from the protest-heavy 60s, like the next one on this list.
I got this long ass knife. And your neck looks just right. Come on, journalist.
Cop Killer was banned from some stores, pulled from the album, and condemned by politicians. It showed how music could still rile up the establishment, just like it did decades earlier. Number 5, Waist Deep in the Big Muddy, Pete Seeger, 1967.
Waist deep in the big muddy, the big fool said to push on.
Pete Seeger was no stranger to controversy. Waist Deep in the Big Muddy is one of the most powerful anti-war songs of the Vietnam era. It's a story about a military officer who leads his men into a swamp, ignoring warnings until it's too late. The metaphor was obvious and dangerous. CBS originally censored the song when Seeger performed it on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
Sergeant said, sir, with all this equipment, no man will be able to swim.
Why? Because the lyrics were a clear criticism of President Lyndon B. Johnson's handling of the Vietnam War. After public outcry, CBS reversed its decision and allowed the song to air, but only months later.
A few seconds later, the captain's helmet was all that floated by.
It's a perfect example of how a folk tune could hit the government right where it hurt, in public opinion. Number 4, My Generation, The Who, 1965.
Just because we talking about my generation. Things ain't cool.
My Generation was an anthem, but not everyone was clapping along. The stuttering delivery of Why Don't You All Fade Away
Don't you all fade away. My generation.
led many to believe the band was about to drop an F-bomb. Some stations bleeped it or banned it outright. The aggressive attitude and defiant lyrics didn't help either. This was a song about youth pushing back. The line, "Hope I die before I get old," terrified adults. It sounded like nihilism, like kids rejecting everything their parents stood for. In Australia, it was outright banned. In the US, it caused enough of a stir that it was censored in some regions. But to teens, it was a rallying cry. Number 3, Browneyed Girl, Van Morrison, 1967. Yes, even this sunny-sounding hit wasn't immune. Brown-Eyed Girl was actually controversial when it first came out. The original lyrics included a line about making love in the green grass.
Making love in the green grass behind the stadium.
Radio stations thought that was a bit too descriptive. So a tamer version with the line changed to Laughin' and a Runnin', Hey Hey, was recorded for broadcast.
Laughing and a running, hey, hey. Scupping and a jumping in the...
The result? Confused listeners, banned original pressings, and a lingering suspicion that even wholesome-sounding songs could get the axe. The irony is that most people didn't even notice the suggestive line. But once radio managers caught on, they pulled it fast. Number 2, God Save the Queen, Sex Pistols, 1977.
God save the Queen. She ain't no human being.
This song wasn't just banned, it was outlawed in some corners of the UK and feared in the US. God Save the Queen was a punk rock grenade hurled at the monarchy with lines like, "She ain't no human being," and "There's no future in England's dreaming."
She ain't no human being. There is no future.
Released during Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee, it was basically an anti-national anthem. British radio banned it. Retailers wouldn't stock it. Even the BBC blocked it. The Sex Pistols tried to perform it on a boat outside Parliament. It was chaos. In the US, the song got little airplay but stirred up concern that punk was corrupting the youth.
Lord God have mercy. All crimes are paid.
It represented a kind of raw rebellion that hadn't been seen since the late 60s. Even though it didn't chart traditionally, it became a legend and still makes people uneasy today. Number 1, Strange Fruit, Billie Holiday, 1939.
Strange fruit hanging from the...
Okay, we're breaking our decade rule slightly, but for good reason. Strange Fruit was recorded in 1939, but it was still banned in the 60s and 70s. That's how powerful and terrifying it was to the establishment. The song describes lynchings in the American South. The lyrics, "Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root,"
Southern trees bear
are chilling. Radio stations refused to play it. The FBI harassed Billie Holiday for years. And even decades later, stations were too afraid to give it airtime. In the civil rights era, the song re-emerged, but many broadcasters were still too nervous to touch it.
and blood at the root. Black
They feared it would spark outrage, protest, or worse. It's one of the most powerful songs ever written. And its long-running censorship is proof of just how afraid people were of the truth it told. So, there you have it. 10 songs that didn't just play on the radio. They pushed buttons, broke rules, and sparked full-blown cultural wars. Some were banned for lyrics, others for what they represented. But all of them stood up to the status quo and said something that needed to be heard. Did we leave out a song you remember being controversial back in the day? Maybe one you weren't allowed to listen to growing up. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your memories. And hey, if you enjoyed this trip down the forbidden lane, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More untold stories from the 60s and 70s are coming your way right here. Thanks for watching, and keep the music playing, even the banned stuff.